Steve, the sort of nuances of this are so interesting, right? As we see potentially China starting to distance itself from the reality of the conflict. What's this tightrope that Beijing is trying to walk?
Well, obviously, there's a diplomatic tightrope globally as well as economic one, and those sanctions. What we heard late Friday on the economic front, of course, as these sanctions started being rolled out, we're seeing at least 2 of the 4 big banks in China, ICBC in particular, according to sources telling Bloomberg News, that they have started restricting some of these U.S. dollar-denominated letters of credit for purchase of Russian commodities. It'll be interesting to see this week how that plays out, whether it expands or pulls back, as the sanctions have not yet necessarily targeted the Russian energy sector. But again, it shows Beijing's willingness. Well, willingness is probably the wrong word. Their respect for the sanctions, because in the past, China has, stood, in line with U.S. sanctions on, say, for example, North Korea and Iraq. It'll be interesting following, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping's big get-together before the Olympics, where they talked about their relationship having no limits and no forbidden areas of cooperation. And of course, we know that China has been one of the main diplomatic allies of Vladimir Putin. But again, they're starting to walk back a little bit of that support that we saw following the invasion, which is a word, by the way, China is not using. And they're also not necessarily outwardly condemning the action in the Ukraine, and they abstained on the UN Security Council resolution on that condemnation, while, of course, Russia did veto it, obviously. Wang Yi is the foreign minister of China. When he had a call with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, on Friday, he said China respects each country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. At the same time, though, we understand Russia's reasonable concern on security issues. Now, going forward, that was with his conversation with Sergei Lavrov. When he had also phone conversations with other foreign ministers around the world, he walked back some of that support, essentially saying, absolutely imperative for all sides to exercise restraint and prevent the conflict from getting out of control. The present situation, this was Friday, the present situation is not something China wants to see. So it'll be interesting to see this week, as we head towards the beginning of the National People's Congress, the annual session of Parliament on Saturday, what the Beijing narrative is going to be. Because on state media this weekend, it was fairly muted. And that tells me that they're still trying to reach consensus on what their narrative is going to be on Russia.